Welcome to another edition of Down the Road. Today we're going to get a chance to talk about everything from Israel to horse racing to, well, one of my favorite subjects, or one of the ones that I like to track the most, which is what's happening in Medora and what's happening as far as putting North Dakota in a place where we're going to get some national attention. The type of attention where Harley riders like me are going to say, you know what, that's a good spot to go to. And that's going to be the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. The library is going to be in Medora, or right on the edge of it. And the person that is my contact, that is everybody's contact, quite frankly, when it comes to it, is Ed O'Keefe. Ed, good to have you on with us. Thanks for coming down the road.
It's so good to be down the road with you, Joel. I don't know if I can be as interesting as Israel or entertaining as horse racing, but I'll try.
Well, the horse racing thing involved prison, so you don't want to be. You do not want to be that interesting.
Okay, good to know.
All right. So I know that for the last time we spoke, some of the things that changed. I want to make sure we cover them, even if the audience has maybe heard some of this. I want to make sure for those that haven't, they get an opportunity too. Now, I know that a ranch has been bought very close to where you're building the library.
That is correct. Rob and Melani Walton have purchased the former Helixson Ranch. It's about 2,000 deeded acres, including several parcels of U.S. Forest Service land that through the Medora Grazing Association, there's an existing ranching and grazing arrangement. And the good news is they're not going to build on it. Rob and Melanie have purchased this ranch not for the TR library, not for their personal use, but to continue ranching and grazing that land. So they've actually extended the agreement with the current rancher. They're working with the Medora Grazing Association on that deeded acreage, and it will be conserved and preserved for the time being.
So, the upside is you're not going to see development next to the library. It's going to look the way that you and others have envisioned this. I saw the drawings that you had before when you first kind of were playing out some of the options, and then you had made up your mind which direction you folks were going to go. I can't imagine looking at any building in the horizon of what you've got this thing pointed towards. I mean, this is a real dedicated, great step for the library.
It's a phenomenal step, and I have to give my compliments to Billings County and to the Medora Grazing Association. I've been working on this project a little over a year now, and I've had a lot of conversations with Pat Weir, who's the county attorney, is also a judge in North Dakota. I've been working with Stacy Swanson and a whole bunch of folks at the Medora Grazing Association as well. And they've really, they love this land. They love this place. This is their community. And they had a lot of concerns, of course, as we come in and talk about a Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. And I think the big fear was it was going to work against, not with nature. And Snohetta, the designer of the library, has this great philosophy that if you design any structure for the people that live within 15 miles, people from 15,000 miles will come and enjoy it too. And so I think people have seen this design now and realized that this is not going to be some obtrusive big building on the bluff. It is going to be essentially a community park. I mean, if I can just for a moment, the roof of this design is 3 football fields long, and it is a park. You'll be able to ride and walk and hike, and in the winter, if it snows, be able to sled down the side of it. I mean, there's going to be a path of perspective on those 93 acres that leads you to the Matahay Trail or to take a hike into Theodore Roosevelt National Park. It's going to connect down into the community of Medora, and we hope in the future connect all the way out to Painted Canyon as well. So it's not, the purpose here is not to have some big development that sticks out. It's to have a graceful, beautiful structure and community park that blends in.
See, and to me, that's the beauty of it, because the very reason that President Roosevelt came to my home state is because of what you're doing, which is the beauty and the ability to just look out over that horizon and see something that he couldn't see anywhere else. And I got to tell you, Ed, you're not taking that away from it. I mean, you're enhancing it.
Well, exactly, Joel. I mean, we talked about this in a previous conversation. I mean, Theodore Roosevelt came to the Badlands a broken man. I mean, he'd lost his wife and his mother on the same day in the same house, but he'd also lost his father, who was a figure of great importance to him 6 years earlier in that same house. And, you know, what fascinates me is I talk a lot about how Theodore Roosevelt actually invested in his ranch in Medora in September of 1883, and then he returned home to New York, and he put down the initial down payment on what would become Sagamore Hill, originally called Lehome, for his first wife, who would perish in February of 1884. And interestingly, so he invested in Dakota before he invested in New York. And when his wife and his mother passed away in February of that next year, he had a decision to make. You know, is he going to proceed with the building of Sagamore Hill? And he did. On March 1st of that year, just a couple of weeks after the death of his wife and mother, he actually hired an architect and proceeded with the plans for a grand home, and then went out to Dakota. What I love and what that says to me is this is a person who consciously planned to have a life in both the East and the West. He is of both places. And he said for the rest of his life that his experiences in North Dakota were what made him and allowed him to become president of the United States. And I don't think that was just a political statement. I think he really, truly meant that being with people who were different than him, being able to prove and live the strenuous life, having that ranch and being a ranchman was an essential experience in his life. And it's one that, regardless of the tragedy that brought him back to Dakota, he wanted and intended to have.
Well, I don't think there's any question of that in his writings, and some of what you've shared with me in the past shows that he doesn't believe he ever would have been president of the United States had it not been for his time in Dakota. You know, children, after he lost his wife, his mother and his wife came out a broken man. How many children did he have?
Well, he had 6 total. You know, he had 1 with his first wife and 5 with his second. He had a big family.
No, but I mean, okay, did he have 6 at the time that he came back
to
Dakota?
No, he only had 1. He had Alice, his very first daughter, with his first wife who passed away.
So who watched her? How did that work?
Well, now you've gotten onto the subject that brought me to this project. I am writing a book. It's due August 31st. So if anybody has any editing help or tips, I would greatly appreciate it. Somehow this library has taken up a lot of time. And the subject that I'm looking into is that all of the extraordinary women in his life, in TR's life, that helped make him who he was, that, you know, he is probably known as the most masculine president in the American memory, but he's actually the product of unsung and extraordinary women. It kind of goes to that myth of the self-made man, that no one is self-made. Everyone has people in their life, whether they're a brother or a sister, a mother, a father, a friend, that steps in at really critical intervals and gives you the courage and the encouragement, the support and the structure to go on. And in Theodore Roosevelt's case, that was most definitely his older sister, Bammy. Bammy would have been, 60 years later, the RFK to JFK, right? She would have been the attorney general and the political confidant to the president. 100 years later, Bammy would have been the better politician in the family. Theodore Roosevelt trusted everybody. He liked everybody. He talked to everybody. Bammy was the one who said, go talk to Joel Heitkamp. Be careful around this person. Think of who you're writing or talking to on this subject. She was a political mind much greater than his. He had that ability to communicate and connect with people. But she was extraordinarily powerful in Theodore Roosevelt's life. And it was Bammy who actually took care of his daughter Alice for 3 years while he was in Dakota, built Sagamore Hill, and then laid the groundwork for his political life from thereafter.
So you and I both know that when you have somebody like that in your life, that a wink, a nod, a mere look is all you need to know whether you're doing right or you're doing wrong. What role did she play beyond that filter? I mean, how big of a part was she in his presidency or leading up to that presidency?
Critical. Critical person. So Bammy actually lived in Washington, D.C., and her home became known as the Little White House. People would routinely go and visit Bammy, his older sister, before meeting with the president to get her take on how he might react to certain issues. Before he became president, William McKinley died on September 14th, 1901, and there was an interval of about 10 days before he moved into the White House and Mrs. McKinley moved out. Theodore Roosevelt, as president of the United States, lived with his sister in Washington, D.C., and began to greet people as president of the United States at his sister's home. She was very, very influential, and he would do very clever things with his sisters. Connie, his younger sister, actually hosted Booker T. Washington for dinner before Theodore Roosevelt did. And then said to TR, I really think you ought to have him to the White House, and kind of gave him the talking points, if you will, for that discussion. So, they were very, very critical in every aspect of his life. And the last quick thing I'll say, his first wife, Alice, who doesn't get a lot of credit, she was basically the foundation of his progressive principles. He wrote in 1880, Theodore Roosevelt wrote a effusive declaration of women's suffrage. This is 40 years before the 19th Amendment and the passage of women's suffrage. And it's entirely connected to his first wife, Alice, and her family's belief in the Boston Brahmin kind of progressivism that they held. So there's a fascinating story about the orbit of people and influences in his life, including Bammy, Connie, Alice, and his mother, Mittie, and of course his second wife, Edith. People,
it's an old trivia question. Who was the youngest president ever? Who was the youngest president ever elected? If you're me, you get that one right every time, in large part because of North Dakota. We're pretty proud that Teddy Roosevelt was the youngest president ever. But do you think people, just the strength of the presidency itself and the personality that people can become in that presidency, nobody remembers certain presidents. Yeah, you mentioned McKinley, and of course we know the short time frame and everything that happened there. I guess what I'm getting at here is nobody's ever going to forget Teddy Roosevelt, ever. I mean, my grandkids, my great-grandkids are going to be studying about Teddy Roosevelt. What do you think singles him out to be that important?
His commitment to a philosophy over politics. I truly believe he believed in a square deal for everyone, and he didn't have an interest in partisanship as much as he did practical solutions. I mean, he came to the presidency as an accidental president. He could have had a completely inconsequential presidency. There was no major war. There was no major issue. There was nothing for him to react to. He was the progenitor. He was the person who caused the action. If he saw an injustice, he sought to right it. If he thought that there was a trust that needed busting, he busted it. If he saw the degradation of species relative to humans, he conserved land. He took action. He had an ability to galvanize the public to his cause. And I think that that's an interesting sort of lesson, right? A lot of presidents, they wait for something to react to. Well, there was no war, there was no depression, there was no economic issue that really defined them. He was a self-made actor based on the deep principles and philosophy that he brought to the presidency at, as you noted, only 42 years old. He was 25 when he was in North Dakota, 42 when he became president of the United States.
And I would add this, Ed, don't get involved in this. Just let me say it, and then you just be quiet. Everything you just described to me means that he really wasn't a Republican. He was a Democrat in today's time. So when we come back, it's too much fun not to talk history with Ed O'Keefe. So stick around. The chairman, the boss, the man, the CEO of the Teddy Roosevelt Presidential Library Foundation, Ed O'Keefe, stays with us right after this.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast and homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark.
Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
He's the CEO, ladies and gentlemen, of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library Foundation. I hung on to Ed O'Keefe because I have too much fun talking to him, and he can go ahead and try to raise more money while I'm sitting here trying to take him from it. Ed, before the break, and I probably didn't do this in the first segment the way I should have, but Melani Walton and the Walton family, the dedication they have to this project. We talked about the land, the ranch adjacent to the library, but what is it that drives her? What makes her so passionate about this project?
Melani Walton is she was born in Williston, North Dakota. She was raised just across the border in Sidney, Montana. Her father laid the cornerstone of the amphitheater, of the Burning Hills Amphitheater. She says that she has been to the musical every year of her life, and even before she was born, because her mother took her there when she was pregnant with her. So this is somebody with legitimately deep roots in the community. This would not be happening without her connection to North Dakota. This is about creating a community for and with North Dakota. There are so many wonderful benefactors of this project. I know Melanie and Rob get a lot of attention, and they actually don't seek it, but I think it's important to know that it comes from a place of wanting to give back to the place that she is from.
Well, she is. I mean, that cannot be, when there was a debate going on, and you and I were having it over the legislation that put this at Dickinson State. And then, there was a movement to move it to Medora. And for me personally, it was like, okay, well, wait a second. Is this being strong-armed? Is this being, the political clout getting behind and turning and reversing something the legislature did? How do you argue with people putting up the money and backing exactly what they said, or doing exactly what they said they would do? Because that's really what's happened here with this, Ed. I mean, everybody, all those question marks that came along with it, they've turned into exclamation points here.
Well, I'm glad you say that, Joel. And I want to emphasize that we are going to have a robust and very strong partnership with Dickinson State University and the community of Dickinson. I mean, we're 37 miles away, and that's the infrastructure that will support this library probably forever. I mean, I could see and I hope that we become the anchor tenant, if you will, of economic investment and entrepreneurs building a restaurant or a hotel or looking at campgrounds and RV parks, improving the national park, whatever we can do to make that community stay as special as it is, but also provide some more development. And Dickinson is a partner. I mean, they have this wonderful digitization project at the Theodore Roosevelt Center. Stay tuned for an announcement on our support for that effort. So this is, to me, it has never been an either or. One of the first political speeches that Theodore Roosevelt ever gave to a public crowd, right? He'd been an assemblyman, but that means he was giving speeches in the New York State Assembly. The first real political speech was on July 4th, 1886. And that's where you see this person who came to North Dakota in 1884 suddenly become, I like big things. I like big factories, big wheat fields, big open railroad, right? You see in that speech on July 4th, 1886, the Theodore Roosevelt that philosophically will stay absolutely true until he becomes president in 1901. Guess where he gave that speech? Dickinson, North Dakota. It's a part of the story. It's not an or, it is an and we're very much going to be partners.
Describe a week. I'm not just saying about the winter, but he heads out to the Dakotas and he's sitting there in North Dakota in the Badlands and he wants solitude. He comes out a broken man and he's really trying to put his life back together with a sense of meaning, as though the whole world isn't after him. Like, man, I can imagine the feeling. Maybe I can't imagine the feeling of you've got all these aggressive plans and the next thing you know, everybody you love around you is gone. So he goes out to the Badlands. Describe to me, Ed, if you can, what a week of his life was like in the Badlands.
Well, there was obviously a day's ride, 5-6 hours ride between Medora and the Elkhorn Ranch. And the Elkhorn Ranch was constructed because the Maltese Cross, which was really a working ranch south of town, was along the main passageway that led to Medora. So it was just plain too busy. I mean, he couldn't get the solitude that he was seeking, and he sought the advice of a neighbor, the Eatons, who said, if you follow the Little Missouri up north, about 5-6 hours past Medora, there is this beautiful plot of land with a lovely butte that overlooks, and you could build a private ranch there. And his week, once he built that private ranch, with the help of the two Maine woodsmen, Dow, Sewell and Dow, they came with him. So he wasn't alone in the Elkhorn cabin, but he would take off at a moment's notice and start off onto the plains, go on a hunt, go after a stray horse, right? He would spend countless days alone out in the Badlands. And I think that formative experience told him that he could do it, right? He proved to himself that he could live up to the characters that he admired when he was younger. I mean, this is a boy who grew up sick. I mean, I read it, the asthma of his age, right? The New York of the 1860s was a dusty, smoggy, awful, horrible place to live, big Victorian curtains, and he would literally gasp for breath. And he believed that his parents saved his life. Think of how scary that would be if your 10-year-old is gasping for air and you don't know why, right? I mean, and he comes out to the Badlands, to North Dakota, where it's open, fresh, rolling space. I mean, he believed that nature was the tonic for the soul, and he restored, he healed through the process of being out and living the strenuous life in North Dakota.
Could he shoot?
Yeah.
Everybody talks about, him, he was a hero when it came to serving his country in uniform, but could he shoot? Because if you lived where he lived, as long as what he lived there all by yourself, you better be able to shoot.
He needed his glasses, I'll tell you that. Yes, he could shoot, but he was definitely not as good of a shot as, say, his brother Elliot or others who were with him. If he didn't have his glasses, he would have a hard time hitting the broadside of a barn.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to run this a little longer, guys. I got at least one more good question for Ed. What people always have a hard time making the connection between Teddy Roosevelt and Franklin Delano. Explain to people that relationship.
Sure. So the simplest way to think of it is Theodore Roosevelt was Eleanor Roosevelt's uncle. Theodore Roosevelt's younger brother, Elliot, was Eleanor Roosevelt's father. And Elliot dies very tragically in 1894, a severe alcoholic. His wife, Eleanor's mother, had preceded him in death. So she was an orphan. And Theodore Roosevelt, her uncle, really did become a bit of a father figure to her. He walked her down the aisle at her wedding to FDR. He would have her out to the home in Oyster Bay and really served as a surrogate in a lot of circumstances where his brother would have been the father to Eleanor. And so FDR is a fifth cousin, very distant. They shared the same name, but they wouldn't in any circumstances be considered strongly related. FDR liked to make that connection more explicit because, of course, Theodore Roosevelt was so insanely popular. But FDR was a Democrat and TR was a Republican. So that was a source of a lot of disagreement in the family, where Ted Jr., TR's son, actually became quite annoyed by the fact that FDR was, in a sense, riding the coattails of his father. But Eleanor is the familial connection. Okay. She is the niece of TR.
Okay, one quick one before I run out of time here, though. Ed's sitting there going, "You're running late, Heitkamp. I know you are."
That's okay.
When you say that, though, when you say those connections, Teddy was a Republican president, but after he left and formed the Bull Moose, did he go back to being a Republican after that?
That's a great question. In 1920, he was expected to be, and when he died in 1919, the leading contender for the Republican nomination. The party bosses had basically made peace with TR and had essentially decided, hey, look, if he wins, then we will step aside. He's the strongest chance we have of a Republican winning in 1920. So there was a very fractious relationship between TR and the party bosses, so much so that they denied him the nomination in 1916. But basically, it was believed that had he lived in 1920, he could have had the Republican nomination again. He did not. He died at age 60. He dies, very young. And a lot of people they were stunned by the news. So stunned, by the way, there was a North Dakota paper that had run an attack on TR, sort of thinking, the DFL were getting ready for the possibility that TR was going to abandon progressives in their mind and run as a Republican again. And so they were pre-attacking TR. And there was a hit piece in a Dakota paper that they had to stop the presses and pull it the day he died. They were so stunned that he had passed away at age 60.
If people want to find out more about the library or want to help, they want to open up their wallet, how do they do it, Ed?
Well, trlibrary.com is the best source for information. And if you are going to be in Medora this summer, Douglas Brinkley, the historian and scholar, is our first inaugural historian in residence. He's going to be living in Medora all summer long. We are opening next week our Medora offices. They will be open 350 3rd Avenue, directly across from the bank, right across from the Rough Rider Hotel. Come see us. Come say hello. Get some information about the library. Meet Douglas Brinkley. Or if you can't do that, please go to trlibrary.com.
All right. Ed, I could do this all day. Thanks for giving us your time. Appreciate it.
So good to be with you, Joel.
Yeah. When we come back, I'm going to have some comments for you about a big brother and a little fight right here as we head down the road.
Hey, everybody. I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third
news.
term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks.
I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened with a woman named Susan Bala. Now, many of you don't know who Susan Bala is because this all happened so long ago, but Susan Bala is this woman that was involved in horse racing in North Dakota. In fact, she grew the horse racing business in North Dakota. Once we got to that you can officially bet on horse racing, she grew that industry into one of the ones across the nation that everybody said, holy cow, how'd you do that? Well, she got accused of a bunch of stuff. She did. And the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney Drew Wrigley and the Attorney General Wayne Stenjum decided, you know what? We're going to make some hay out of this. And they did. They were about as, in my opinion, ruthless as you can be going after Susan Bala. Susan Bala ended up going to federal prison. So you got all of that you can hang your hat on, right? There. I threw Susan Bala in prison. I'm the one that got tough on that horse racing, I threw her in prison. Well, she served for 18 months of her life. Year and a half of her life, she gave up. And you know what they found out? She didn't do anything wrong. That's right. She didn't do anything wrong. They were like pulling the whole conviction, saying let her out. She appealed and she won is probably the best way that I can put that. So where does she go? Where does she go to get back that whole year and a half of her life? Nowhere. She can't ever get that back. Certain politicians want to hang their hat on it and say, oh man, look at what I did. I took on gaming. Da-da-da-da. Well, you also took away a big part of somebody's life. You did. So what ends up happening? Susan Bala sues. That's right. She's owed some money. They blew up her business. I mean, that's what they do. They blew it up. So she sues for a little over $15 million, and she wins. She wins the $15 million. So now what? Well, the Attorney General of the state of North Dakota throws in with a professional gambler and throws in on a suit against Susan Bala. In the end, the Attorney General dropped his side of it, but you got to understand that's where his motivation was, because the professional gambler in the beginning said $2 million of that should be mine. And then once he found out what the settlement was, it's like, no, $10 million of that should be mine. Well, the truth of the matter is we don't know where North Dakota stands. We know where the federal court stands. We know where the court system is and the judicial system when it comes to Susan Bala is, because she's free. You know, all of that's been wiped clean. But you know what? She doesn't got her $15 million. She doesn't. And you know why? Because we can't admit we're wrong as a state. And that's what I'm trying to talk about here. Wayne Stengham, ladies and gentlemen, is the Attorney General of the state of North Dakota. You're not going to get a chance to visit with him very often. You're not. Wayne Stengham isn't in this state very often. He likes to travel. He does. You got the Republican Attorney Generals Association, and they've got a neat little pack, and they go from here to there to there. You saw them in the last election. You saw the money that was being spent from the state of North Dakota and others as they went after certain states, for example, Georgia, and they got overturned. Each and every time they got overturned, and North Dakota would lend its name to it, and then it got overturned. You know, the whole point being this: Wayne Stengham hasn't exactly won a lot of cases. In fact, if you're ever in front of a keyboard and you want to take a look at the fact that he took away a payloader down in Forbes, North Dakota, and lost the payloader. I'm serious about that. They took a payloader because it was a stolen payloader away from some guys in Forbes, and it wasn't the guys' fault. And he lost the payloader. Wayne Stengham has not been someone that history is going to treat all that kind when it comes to winning lawsuits. But here's the problem. You don't get to talk to him. You know, there's a woman in his office named Liz Brocker, and she has been appointed by Wayne to be the Attorney General of North Dakota. So if you call there, she's just not going to let you through. You can't get to him. And that isn't just me, a progressive talk radio host. That isn't me, a progressive TV host. That isn't just me. That's everybody, because Wayne knows that he'd have to go on record. Now, there are some conservative media members out there that are going to bring roses to the interview. Well, I'm not one of them. I'm not. As far as I'm concerned, Wayne Stengham, as my mom would put it, has a lot of explaining to do. And when it comes to Susan Bala, and it comes to how she's been treated and what the state of North Dakota did to her through our Attorney General, well, that's just wrong. It's wrong. When we come back, well, you're going to remember him probably as a short-term athletic director for NDSU. Stick around. More coming your way.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Pack the house in honor of North Dakota's heroes with Bucks Football Saturday, May 15th, as the Bucks go to battle against the Green Bay Blizzard. Help us honor Gold Star families, wounded warriors, and veterans alike. All veterans and family general admission tickets are free with military ID. Call 701-595-0771 for tickets and more information.
I work on this show with a woman named Amy Eiler, and I knew Amy Eiler when she was, well, the reason that we call her AI is because she was Amy the intern back in radio with me a long time ago. But it's fun to work with her on this TV project. And Amy came into my office today, and she said, "We've got Prakash. We've got him." And I'm like, "Really?" She goes, "Yep, he's coming on. We're going to talk about his book." She was so excited. She was like a kid the night before Christmas. And then I'm like, this is going to be fun. Prakash Mathew, thank you for coming on, sir. I appreciate it.
Well, good to be with you, Joel, and the show.
Long history, NDSU, all the different roles you played at NDSU, it's just amazing. Why don't you give people a little rundown of all the things you did at NDSU?
Well, I came in 1971, that's exactly 50 years ago, to NDSU as a student, graduate student. And I was brought here by a local pastor. He passed away, and he happened to meet me in India, the college that I was attending in northern part of India. And so we fell in love with each other. I had no idea he was making plans to bring me here. And a short story, long story is already in the books, but I'm not going to talk about that. And I got here for graduate school at NDSU. And as soon as I finished my graduate school, I started working as an interim counselor. And then soon after that, downtown Graverin, the hotel, the old hotel, they turned into student housing, and they were looking for a manager. So I said, well, I will apply, and that's exciting. And it was an exciting position I had. So I was the manager of the hotel, housed students, and then moved to campus, and I became an assistant director, and later became the director of student housing, and then moved into assistant dean and dean of students, and finally as the vice president for student affairs. And a week before my retirement, 1 week before my retirement, and President Bashani called me and said, I think I want you to extend your your term here further, and could you step in and help me out as the interim AD at NDSU? So I stayed on and fulfilled that responsibility also. That's kind of a summary of, but every step of the way, Joel, I had no idea. Every time I reach a position, I get a position, I think, well, this is it. And this, I was not even expecting that. And, and I said, well, okay, now I had to do this. I think it was, I never felt it was work. I was going to work at all. I had so much fun.
Others thought you did a pretty doggone good job. Can I just say that? You cut it. What he just described is a 34-year career serving the state of North Dakota at North Dakota State University. And I think it matters. And I think that's one of the reasons that the project I'm about to visit with you about is going to be so valuable to so many people whose lives you touched and others who can learn from your life. And that is the book that you wrote called We Are Called to Do the Right Thing. Describe to people what this is, this labor of love that you worked on.
Okay. The book is all about the values and the principles. To begin with, this I learned from my parents. My parents are my heroes, particularly my dad. My dad was everything to me. In fact, he is the most inspiring leader that you will ever meet. Why was he successful? Because he was a person who he practiced what he preached. He even had the opportunity to work with the Mahatma Gandhi side by side. He was one of the, think about a country as India, and only 3% of the people are Christians there. And he was one of the very few Christians who worked side by side with him and attending the prayer meetings and some of those things. And I used to hear, and this was before I was born, and I will hear stories about their time together and everything about what servant leadership is all about. And that's from my childhood onwards, my father instilled that in my heart, saying that we need to serve. Serving, it is not just simply going and dictating and saying that this is what you should be doing. And serving others, I think that was a high priority in our life, and he instilled that in us. And all the values that I learned, I would say that came from there. That's one of the things. Then in the higher education, when I came here, I also learned lots of things from our students. I think not from other people who are experts about this. And my work with the students, I fell in love with the students at NDSU. And that happened to be the place. And also I went and worked in Mankato State 4 years. So in higher education, I was about 38 years. Wherever I go, my love was the students. That's what the universities are all about. And if you don't recognize that, there is a problem, because the only reason that we are there is to serve the students. So everything that we did was the students were the central focus of everything that we did. At least I wanted to make that happen. I talked about that with every employee that was there. And I said, you're coming here, you think you're coming to work. No, you're coming here to serve. You're coming here to serve. So that was a theme that I tried to instill. I also, if I may continue, and there's a couple of principles that I instilled in this book. And I started talking about and doing workshops about that, which I want to say that's my own. I used to call this 80-20 principle. And I started talking about doing workshops about that, and I was getting great feedback from former staff and particularly former students. They slowly started telling me, Prakash, we are using this principle in our life, and in fact, I think in their employment. And could you put this in writing? Because this will be a great help for other people. I'm not a great writer. I didn't feel like I was, and so I said, well, why do you want me to write a book? If you are using it, if you're benefiting it, use it. That's all that matters. And they came back after I retired, and they started encouraging me more and more. So I started writing the book. And again, only because of the encouragement from the former students and former staff, I started writing this book. When I started writing the book, kind of the focus somewhat changed, even though there is a main portion of that is about the 80-20 principle, which if we have time, I can explain what that is in a nutshell. But then the theme changed into, what our country went through in the last few years. Doing the right thing, that become everybody kind of start talking about, we had to do the right thing. And I started asking the question, what does that mean? What does that mean? So I tried to articulate somehow a formula for us to, when we make decisions, how do we know we are making the right decision, we are doing the right thing for the right reason? set aside all your political aspiration, all those type of things, and say that just every decision that we make in our life, how do we know that we are doing the right? So that that turned out to be my favorite chapter in the book. I even entertained people from about 6 people nationally and locally, and become part of that chapter, so that they wrote their own opinion about their own essay about what does that mean? Doing the right thing for the right reason, doing the right thing for the wrong reason, doing the wrong thing for the right reason. Those 3 things are approached also in this book. That's a long answer. Sorry about that.
No, I love the answer, and I reserve the right to find out more about the 80-20 principle, Prakash. That when you look at a career like yours, you know, and you look at that family, that foundation, with the 1 minute I have left, how big of a role did that play in the success that you've enjoyed in life?
The family that brought me here, you're talking about?
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, it is to this day. First, I used to say it was a coincidence. It is not. I'm going to say that I think the last several decades, the faith has played a major role in my life, Joe. And my dad was a pastor, by the way. I'm a preacher's kid. I'm a preacher's kid. And but at the same time, this was all God's plan. It was God's plan. I have no way. Here is a man from Fargo coming there and meeting me there. And I was one of the students selected by the president of the university to meet with this person. And we fell in love with each other, and he said, no, I'm going to bring Prakash to Fargo. And he should go to school here at North Dakota State University. Wow. And then take a look at what has happened in my life. Yeah. And I told the other day, there was a banquet, and I spoke, and I said, I came here with a suitcase. All I had was a suitcase. Yeah. And nothing. I didn't even have money to give a tip to somebody who brought the luggage to my room.
Yeah. Prakash, obviously I'm out of time, but I want to know more about 80-20. Okay, so I'm going to call you again, if I can get you on again sometime. Where do people find your book?
Well, they can get that at the NDSU Press. They can get in Zambros. They can get the NDSU bookstore. They can get in Amazon. I think all the major bookstores have it already.
Thank you for doing this, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to close out this trip as we finish our ride down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc. Yeah.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you could pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Maid and Bismarck.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Well, we're almost there, so just hang with me a little bit longer as we head down the road. But there's no question whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen, that Israel is our ally. In fact, I could make the argument they're our only ally in the Middle East. But that doesn't mean that you have to go along with everything. It can't all be unconditional. Now, you take a look at what's happening with the Israelis and the Palestinians right now. And you just take a step back. And what it reminds me of is it reminds me a lot of having that big brother sit there and watch that little brother in a fight. And the little brother is kicking butt, right? The little brother is beating the crap out of the kid that he's fighting. Okay, so what does the big brother do? Does he sit by? Does he do nothing? Does he smile? Does he smirk? Does he sit there and say, hey, that other kid had it coming? Or does he realize that in this particular case, the fight is really over, at least for now? Well, for me, that's what the U.S. needs to do to Israel. The United States needs to look at Israel and say, listen, ceasefire. We got to tone this down. Our love isn't unconditional. That we get the opportunity to say, as the ones that have your back, of when you have had enough. And that's what's going on right now. This whole notion that we have peace in the Middle East, I don't blame the Trump administration. A lot of people are. I mean, the Trump administration ran around saying we deserve a Nobel Prize. They don't deserve a Nobel Prize any more than the guys before them because they didn't get it done. You know why? Because no one's ever going to get it done. But I tell you, what's happening to women and children, it's just wrong. And the U.S. needs to step in and tone this whole thing down. Good riding with you, folks.